it's Alex, and I'm back for the next installment of my Game of Thrones recap series. We didn't have an episode last week. They were off for the Memorial Day weekend. But what an episode they came back with. The long-awaited fight for Tyrion's trial by combat happened, and I mean, if you read the book, you knew what was going to happen, but if you didn't, you were probably very surprised. And even as someone who's read the book, it was something. But we'll get to that later. So we were in multiple places in the north. First, at Molestown, Gilly's working in the brothel, and this chick was all like, "Your baby woke me up, I'm gonna bully you." And then Gilly hears the little owl whistle thing, and she's like, "Ugh." And the chick's like, "Dude, whatever, you're stupid, go away." But Gilly knows that it's a wildling attack signal, and sure enough, the wildlings are attacking Molestown. They come into the brothel and start killing everyone, and Gilly hides the baby. But then Ygritte hears the baby, and Ygritte finds Gilly holding the baby, and seems to spare her life, just tells her to be quiet and goes on about her day. Well, back at Castle Black, Jon and Sam and Pip and Grin, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember which ones are Pip and Grin, but they're friends. There are a few people still at Castle Black who have been ordered to stay inside, and they're really ticked off about it. And Sam's like, "Oh my gosh, I signed their death warrants, they're gonna die because of me." And they're all like, "Sam, it's okay, Gilly's a survivor." And he's like, "But what did I do?" Ramsay has taken Theon to Moat Island, and he's reminding him that he's still Reek, but that he has to pretend to be Theon. And so Theon rides into Moat Island with a white flag, and they're all like, "How do we know you're Theon Greyjoy?" And he's like, "Because this, and this, yo." And they're like, "Fine. Why are you with the Boltons?" And he's like, "Well, I was taken hostage, and they sent me as a sign of good faith, and they want you to retreat and surrender, and you can go home fine." And the guy who was in charge was like, "We're not retreating, screw that, we're Ironborn." But they're all sick and dying anyway. And so then one of the other guys hits him in the back of the head with an axe and is like, "Yeah, we're interested in living. What are the terms? But, because Ramsay's Ramsay and he's a psychopathic jerk, he flays everyone anyway, because that's what Boltons do." When are people going to learn this? The Boltons aren't going to be nice to you. They are a bunch of jerks. They will flay you, they will betray you, and they will kill you, and that's all there is to it. Stay away from the Boltons. Ramsay gets legitimized, and he's all excited, because that's all he's ever wanted, because what a great idea, Roose Bolton. A few episodes ago, I was talking about how it seemed like, Grey Worm and Missandei might be having a little romance brewing, and what do you know, they do. They're all bathing, and Grey Worm sees Missandei, and, she's naked, he's in water, she's washing her dress, and he's like, "Dang, girl's looking good." And she sees him, and then she's all like, "This is weird." But then she's like, "I'm gonna be like the Khaleesi, and I'm gonna be bold and daring." And she stands up, naked as a jaybird, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Oops," and covers herself, but he sees. And then she's telling Dany about it. Well, Dany's doing her hair, which, is kind of awesome. Dany's the queen. She doesn't need to be doing her, advisor's hair, but she is. I think it's kind of cool. And Missandei's not sure how she feels about things, and Dany's like, "Well, do you know, if they cut everything off when he was castrated?" And Missandei doesn't, but she's interested to know. And so later, Grey Worm comes and finds her, and he's like, "I'm sorry." And she's like, "Well, I'm sorry that you were castrated." He's like, "I'm not, because if I hadn't been, I wouldn't be Unsullied. I wouldn't be here with Daenerys Stormborn. I wouldn't be the common tongue." That their lessons where she's teaching him how to speak, these lessons are precious to him. And she's like, "I never taught you that word." And he's like, "No, Sir Jorah did." And I wonder who Sir Jorah might have been thinking about when he was thinking about that word. Missandei and Grey Worm both come to the conclusion that they're both happy that he saw her naked, and they go about their business. Well, Sir Barristan, later in the day, ends up getting handed a letter with a scroll from Robert Baratheon. It is a scroll. Tywin sent it. It's basically, another copy of the pardon that was sent to Jorah back in, season 2, season 1, whenever Dany almost drank the poisoned wine. And, either way, season 1, wouldn't it? Because I think she was pregnant. Barristan goes to Jorah, and he's like, "What's up with this?" And he says he hasn't told Dany yet, but that Jorah will never be able to be alone with her ever again. Jorah goes in to tell Dany, everything, and she's like, "Well, why'd you tell him? And he's like, well, when you and Viserys got to Pentos and that you were going to marry Khal Drogo. And she's sitting there all calm until he admits that he told them that she was pregnant. And then she just starts going off on him. And he's like, but I loved you. And she's like, no, I don't think so. Get out of my city. And he does. And that, if you read my thought catalog article, 12 times Game of Thrones Weird My Life, the last part, when I said that, he's about to be even less happy about the situation in terms of being friend-zoned, that's what I mean. Because it's pretty hard to get with the person you want to be with if you are A, their worst enemy at the moment, and B, exiled from their presence. So it's not looking too good for Jorah and Dany right now. In the Eyrie, the lords and ladies of the Vale are there asking Baelish about what happened to Lysa. And he's all like, it was suicide. And they're like, well, we don't really believe you, considering how freakishly attached she was to her son. And Sansa comes in, under the premise of being Elaine, his stupid niece. And she's like, well, I can't lie, Lord Baelish. I have to tell the truth. And she admits that she's Sansa Stark, and they believe her because she remembers details about, encountering Lord Royce before Winterfell. And she tells them that, Lord Baelish was her only friend, and he'd been working to protect her, and he got her out of King's Landing and brought her there, and that Lysa had committed suicide because she saw Peter kiss Sansa on the cheek. She makes sure to specify it, which, isn't what happened. And she flew into a jealous rage and jumped out of the moon door. And they believe her, because, she's Sansa Stark, and Sansa Stark, even last season, probably would not have been able to handle this. But, she's growing up. She's really starting to realize, that she's got to be more than a pretty face if she wants to survive. Her family is getting slaughtered. And she's got to stick it out the best she can. And she is. And Baelish, convinces everybody that, maybe Robin should be the new king. And, screw the Lannisters. Let's prep him, get him out of the Eyrie. Let him go experience things and hold a sword and, be a man. And, as they're preparing to leave, Sansa comes down the stairs and she's got this dark outfit on and she's just like, yeah, I'm rocking this, and Baelish just staring at her like the creepy perv he is. During this time, they don't know this, but Arya and the Hound have reached the Bloody Gate. And they're all like, hey, who are you? And he's like, I'm the Hound, and this is Arya Stark. We're here to see her aunt. And they're like, well, she died 3 days ago. And Arya starts cracking up. You can't really blame her. At this point, everybody she's tried to be reunited with has been killed. And it's like some cruel joke to just see, how crazy can we make Arya. And she's getting there. So, poor Arya. It was kind of funny, though. Also mentioned, which will probably play out in the next couple of episodes, is that the Hound's wound is bothering him, and Arya's like, you should let me cauterize it, and he's like, it's just a flea bite. But, as we find out later, things don't always work out that way. And also, things don't always work out well when you're recording and your cat is knocking things around. Stop! So in King's Landing, Jaime and Tyrion are, talking about things and whether or not they think Oberyn will do well and if he'll survive. And they start talking about their cousin, Orson, and how as a child he had this thing about smashing beetles. And Tyrion, he always talked about how he needed to know why he would just sit there and kill these innocent little creatures. And obviously there's a lot of symbolism and stuff in there, but let's get to the good stuff. So Oberyn and the Mountain are fighting, and Tyrion gets all ticked off because Oberyn doesn't have a lot of armor on, and he's drinking, and Tyrion's like, dude, you're gonna die. And he's like, no, I'm not. And he gets out there and starts wielding his spear and spinning around like he's in the color guard. And everybody's like, dang, look at his skills. And then, he starts taunting the Mountain, even though the Mountain is huge and terrifying. You killed my sister, you raped her, you killed her children, and I want you to admit it. And basically even flat out eventually says, blames Tywin, pointing at him, who made you do this, who made you do this? And he wounds, the Hound, or the Mountain, really, really badly. And the Mountain is down, and it looks like he's dead, or at least dying, and Oberyn just keeps circling him because, he's falling into this trap that's, usually the villain thing, where they talk about it in The Incredibles, actually, how the villain just starts going off, on a monologue, and then that's enough time for the hero to distract him or whatever and punch in or get out of his situation or whatever. And that's what happens. He just keeps circling the mountain and taunting him and trying to get him to admit to things. And he thinks the mountain's even dead. And then the mountain knocks him down when he's not paying attention, grabs him, starts strangling him. Like, his teeth are falling out of his mouth, his blood is spilling out, and he, like, pushes his thumbs into his eyes and, like, ripping his eyes out. And it's, by far, I believe, the most graphic thing I have ever seen on this show. And, like, it was so bad that my husband, who doesn't watch the show, but who was in the room, looked up and he was like, "What kind of violence perv are you?" And I'm like...
I did.
Like, I'm not a violence perv, it's just the show. Like, I was watching it like this, like, trying to block myself from seeing it, because it was gnarly. It was really, really gnarly. And Tywin ends up sentencing Tyrion to die. So, Oberyn's dead. The mountain is apparently dead, because after he killed Oberyn, he just, like, lays down and, like, and Tyrion is supposed to be dead soon. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I'll see you next week for episode 9. Bye!